As members of the Global Farmer Network,
we believe agriculture is part of the solution,
not part of the problem.
We are committed to developing agricultural leaders
and sharing their stories across the globe.
We have one purpose:
to amplify the farmer's voice.
My voice.
Mi voz.
La mia voce.
My voice.
Welcome to Global Farmer Voices, a podcast by the Global Farmer Network where we invite farmers from around the world to share their stories and perspectives. Hello, I'm Delaney Howell, host of this podcast series, and we're thrilled to continue the celebration of our 25th anniversary, a milestone year for the Global Farmer Network. Each month, we plan to highlight some great themes, showcasing how our members have shown up over the last 25 years. Here in February, we're focusing on the theme of advocacy and the importance of sharing stories with fellow producers and consumers. The farmer we are highlighting today is no stranger to this concept. Jake Leguee is a third-generation farmer from Saskatchewan, Canada. Farming alongside his wife, 4 young sons, parents, and siblings, Leguee Farms raises canola, durum wheat, normal wheat, large green lentils, and flax. Let's dive deeper into Jake's story and how he advocates for agriculture.
Commodity markets spiked, and very quickly things changed. There was a lot of interest in agriculture. All of a sudden, people were talking about it. There was expectations that commodity prices would need to stay, elevated for a significant period of time. So all of a sudden, it looked like maybe there was an opportunity for me to come back. And so by the end of my first year of university, I'd fully decided that I was going to return to the farm. I got started farming. I returned home from university in 2010. So I got a degree in agronomy. At that time, I was helping out on the farm where I could while I was in school, of course. Farmed a little bit of my own just to kind of get into it, get my feet wet, and establish some credit. Obviously, that's pretty important in the farming business. So when I got home, I started farming full-time, did some other things, including working as an agronomist for several years while I was farming to try to, be able to help build up the farm as quickly as we could, to bring in both myself and my sister at the time.
As Jake started attending industry meetings and conferences as a full-time farmer, he became driven to find a way to connect more with consumers, not just fellow producers. So he started his own personal blog, A Year in the Life of a Farmer, a little over 12 years ago. Jake uses his blog and social media platforms to share insights into his farming operation. Jake has a passion for sharing his story to create a space that allows for education and conversation about all aspects of the agricultural industry.
Yeah, I think when most people think of agriculture, they don't think of it as being a very fast-changing, vibrant industry. But the reality is that's exactly what agriculture is. It's incredibly difficult to keep up. And we only get one try each year to get it right, at least in this part of the world. We get one crop every year. So we don't get to quickly respond to changing dynamics, both in how we grow our crops and also in how we market them. So we're having to accelerate our learning, more and more as time goes on. So I guess when I started farming, I was quite plugged into what was happening on the agronomic front, working as a sales agronomist for a few years. So I knew that industry very well. Once I left that, it was important to me to stay in tune with what was going on. So I made it a priority to attend, industry meetings and conferences when I could, to try to stay up to date on what was going on. And, one of the great things about being online these days is you can find pretty well anything. It's just a matter of finding something that's useful, and applicable to our part of the world. One of the things, though, that I started to get more interested in was communicating with consumers, communicating with ultimately our end-use customers. As farmers, we don't ever have that face-to-face interaction, not really, with the people who, end up consuming the products we produce. We sell it to an exporter, it ends up somewhere else in the world, and that's kind of the end of that for us. But nevertheless, it's still very important what people think about agriculture. And for a long time, I don't think that as farmers, we did a great job of explaining why it is we do the things that we do, why we need the products we need, and why it's so important for us to manage our soils to be able to have access to a full toolbox of technologies. So I started to get more interested in sharing some of that story as much as I was able. And, so in about, I guess, 12 years ago now, I started writing just about things that were going on the farm. And then I started to delve more into, things like genetically modified foods and crop protection products, pesticides, fertilizers, larger farms, all of these things that people had a lot of concerns about. But I had a lot of experience firsthand with, both growing up as a kid and professionally, that these things were positive for a whole bunch of reasons. And that led me into a whole bunch of other things over the years, from getting involved with the Global Farmer Network to, meet farmers from around the world and learn what their challenges are and opportunities, to, running for a provincial crop commission and, learning how the checkoff dollars that come off of our sales are used to promote research and investment and all of these sorts of things. And that's allowed me to go kind of from, just working on the farm to being able to be involved in agriculture, in the conversation around agriculture at the national stage and beyond. Going back to 2013, there maybe wasn't as many video type options at that time. Facebook wasn't even that old at that point. So, for me, I like the process of writing. I get a lot of value out of it personally. I find there's no better way to learn to understand an idea than by writing about it. Yeah, so over the years, it has obviously changed. Like I said, when I first started writing, I was spending a lot of it just kind of complaining about our various weather scenarios that we were dealing with. But once I moved kind of beyond that, I was more interested in just sharing why we do the things that we do and what farmers actually do. Like, what's a life of a farmer look like on a day-to-day basis? Not so much on day-to-day stuff on the farm, because there's some great other content about that's video based, and it's hard to share necessarily day-to-day things as well, in an article as you can with the video. And so for me, I prefer to write, longer form pieces on state of the industry or bigger picture things like, demographics or agriculture and investment in it, and other things that inspire me.
As the agriculture industry has evolved, so too has Jake's blog to keep his readers informed and engaged. Jake expanded his content beyond his own operation, using his platform to explore broader industry trends and challenges that impact both producers and consumers alike.
I always try to write as a farmer, right? I'm not trying to write about things that I don't have firsthand experience on. So whatever topic I'm writing about, I'm trying to relate it back to my own experiences. And what I've heard from people is they really enjoy that, because it comes with a very specific voice and a very specific perspective that they just don't have access to elsewhere. Most people don't farm. So to be able to kind of get inside the head of a farmer, I think people really enjoy. And over the years too, I've had some really great conversations with, consumers, like, in writing about pesticides and modern farming techniques and modern plant breeding techniques. Like, should we be scared of these things? And, my response, of course, is always, if there was something to be scared of, I wouldn't be using these products on my own farm. So I really enjoy the ability to share useful information with people who are looking for it and can't find it elsewhere. If you search GMOs on Google, you'll get lots of results, but you're probably not going to get a whole lot that are actually firsthand using them, growing them, those sorts of things. And I really enjoy being able to provide that perspective for people.
His blog serves as a powerful platform to educate the general population on commonly used practices and change the narrative around the misconceptions that may be assumed about the agriculture industry. By sharing his personal experiences with various farming practices and products, Jake not only provides insight into the reasoning behind producers' choices, but also fosters a deeper connection with consumers.
We all need to kind of work at our own best skills to try to improve them. And I think what's cool about agriculture today is there is so much going on in terms of sharing all of this stuff. I just feel like it's part of my job. It's part of, I guess, being a farmer and trying to, fill up my end of the bargain, and that people want to know where their food comes from.
Leveraging his own farming background and experience, Jake understands the importance of sharing his story, knowledge, and skills with others. Through his blog, Jake has the opportunity to reshape the narrative around agriculture, working to bridge the gap between producers and the public through transparency and authenticity.
But ultimately, what I've learned from farming myself and with my family, from being involved with organizations like the Global Farmer Network and the Sask Wheat Commission, all these other things that I've been able to be involved with, is that farmers know their land best. There's nobody in government, there's no bureaucrats, there's nobody that knows the land better than the person who's making a living growing crops or raising animals or whatever they're doing on that land. And the more that we can support farmers to be able to make the decisions that will best improve that land over time, the better off we're all going to be. Because the reality is, we already have the incentives as farmers to do the best job that we can. We're multi-generation operations, most of us, or if we're not, we want to be. Most of us, our goal is to leave things better than we found them. It's to try to improve the land and the farm's financials and all of these things so that our children will have at least as much of an opportunity as we had when we started. It's part of, in a multi-generation farm, it's almost an obligation that your grandparents and your parents sacrificed a lot for us to be able to get to where we are, and we need to be willing to make those same sacrifices for our own kids. And the more that we can do that independently without, overbearing influence from our governments, the better off we all are. So generally speaking, in this part of the world, my advocacy to government is to try to trust us, but engage with us. Don't set policies without engaging with farmers first and get real feedback from people who are really making a living. I think that's where I stand on that.
Advocacy for agriculture is not the same for each person and is more effective when individuals like Jake find their own unique way to share their story and advocate in ways that fit their operation. Advocacy for the industry allows future generations to have the opportunity to continue caring for the land and providing food for the population for years to come.
So, if we aren't looking after things to make sure that our kids have that same opportunity that we had, then they just won't. We have those incentives just built into our job description. And that's what I try to explain to people involved in all of this. Nobody understands the incentives of maximum outputs for minimum inputs while still improving the land for the long term better than farmers do.
Farmers have an unmatched understanding of their land, operations, and livestock, making their voices essential in agricultural advocacy. Sharing their stories and connecting with both fellow producers and consumers fosters transparency, strengthens trust, and ensures the industry's narrative is shaped by those who know it best. As Jake emphasizes, if farmers aren't actively caring for their land, resources, and operations today, the future of agriculture becomes uncertain. Every operation is unique, and each producer brings valuable insight shaped by their experiences. By sharing these perspectives, the conversation remains open, engaging, and impactful, helping to bridge the gap between agriculture and the public while securing a more sustainable future. It's clear that the past 25 years have created a lasting legacy of support, knowledge sharing, and unity within the Global Farmer Network. From the global roundtables that bring farmers like Jake together to the practical advice that transcends borders, the organization has made a profound impact, and we can't wait to see what the next 25 years will bring. If you're interested in learning more about the Global Farmer Network's mission and its members, seeing some of the things the organization is doing, and finding out how you can get involved, please visit globalfarmernetwork.org. And if you'd like to support the Global Farmer Network through a donation, you can do so at globalfarmernetwork.org/donate. If you enjoyed the podcast today, be sure to subscribe and follow the Global Farmer Network on social media: Facebook, X, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, and YouTube. Until next time, I'm Delaney Howell, and this has been the Global Farmer Voices podcast.